Hello, welcome to another video. This time a random mini dungeon. Seems like ages since I've done one of these. Just a reminder, you can pick up the first volume of this with the first 10 dungeons over on oddartworks.com. Get it in either physical, which is what I'm looking at now, or as a PDF for a little bit cheaper. First 10. I think I'm on the number 3 of the next batch now. I could be wrong. But yeah, if you want a copy of the previous dungeons or you want to watch the videos, just look them on here. Oddartworks.com. Okay, let's see how we do today. Alright, so we rolled a 2, which gets us the Necromancer's Crypt. I'll probably change the name of that. But so our entrance is a statue. So a hidden entrance in a statue could be interesting. Our next one for features are an unholy scythe and a ghoul champion. Okay, and our unusual stuff is a giant bat and a funeral pyre. And for our regular stuff, we've got coffins, stale blood, and zombies. Okay, and our exit is another statue. Okay, right, let's get to it then. Let's see what happens. Okay, so to plan this out, I make a quick isometric sketch. I did this one on the computer because I ran out of isometric drawing paper. And then to transfer it to my drawing board, I scribble over the back of it with a 3B pencil. I wish I could do it this fast, but it's sped up. And then you'll see what happens now. I go over it with a blue biro, mostly so I can see. It doesn't have to be blue. And the reason you see me doing this, and I'm pushing quite hard, so that all I'm doing is I'm making the printer paper work as essentially carbon paper, so I get a very thin copy of what I've drawn. And so yeah, when I remove the whole thing, you can just about see the outline of my dungeon there, so I can start drawing. Right, let's get to it. So our statue. So first off, I kind of thought this statue would be like in a graveyard. It feels appropriate to have a necromancer's kind of tomb. That's what I'm going to call it, a necromancer's tomb in a graveyard. And I like the idea of this kind of angelic statue being kind of the hidden entrance. There's a little kind of offering dish in front of it, which in theory you'd put an offering down and the entrance would reveal itself. But yeah, kind of straightforward, just kind of a blocky statue with wings, little fence around it, little gravestones, and then just trying to think about how I'm going to make a border on this, because I kind of think these work better with kind of a shadowy kind of border. And obviously I want to show that this is underground, so having the grass kind of overlap the walls beneath is kind of a nice kind of way to do it. Getting my steps in there, trying to work out which is a straight line, because I don't use rulers for these things. I probably should, but I kind of like the skewiffness of everything. Skewiffness, is that a word? I don't think it is, but it is now. So then it's just a case of inking that as we go. So we ink each bit as we go as normal, and just adding detail where it's needed. Always keeping in mind that the colour and tone I add digitally later will be doing a lot of work, so I don't have to put kind of too much detail in with what's going on there. And then I wanted to get the giant bat in pretty quickly, because I figured he would dominate things, and I wanted to do something a little different than like the other large kind of creatures I've put in these dungeons. So I kind of wanted him to maybe not necessarily even be related to what's going on. Maybe he's just kind of burrowed his way in, and he's just happened upon all of this stuff, and if you were bringing your players into this place, they'd have to deal with this as well. I did get a little bit of bat reference. I kind of love them massive ears. But yeah, I think he turned out pretty well. I'm pretty pleased with him. I got a bit carried away with him, actually. I spent quite a long time just kind of noodling away at him. But that's the problem with monsters. I do love drawing monsters, so I do tend to overindulge myself a little bit there. A little bit of rip in the wing there. Maybe he's an older bat, who knows. But yeah, just kind of marking in where I think shadow is going to go. Get one of those coffins in kind of early on. I figured I would just kind of have these propped up against walls here and there. Not major features, but you don't quite know what's in them, or if they're empty, or if there's treasure in there. So yeah, there we go. And then I wanted to get this funeral pyre done because it was a weird one to roll. I wasn't super chuffed with rolling that one, but we work with what we've got. And I kind of like the idea of the Necromancer being front and centre, holding this unholy scythe and maybe performing a ritual on this dead whoever it is. Trying to work out, I don't know, maybe he's trying to commune with him, maybe he's trying to bring him back. Maybe he's a good Necromancer, though I doubt it. Giving him a little skull face and crinkly robes, and having him kind of front and centre, quite close to the entrance. Normally I don't do the main focal point that close to the entrance, but a change is good. Let's see how this kind of works. And yeah, that allowed me to fill in that back wall then, and just add all the brickwork. And I find with brickwork it can be a bit monotonous, but if you add a little bit of variation to each brick, then it all kind of works. It's worth it in the end. The end result kind of makes it a bit more worthwhile. And I was keen to get him in pretty quickly because I really wanted to fill this space with zombies, because I was really pleased that I rolled zombies, because I know we got zombies for the Lich's Crypt, but I don't feel like zombies need to be exclusive to just one of these dungeons, and I quite like drawing zombies. Given that we've just had October, I did watch a lot of zombie movies over October, which is probably why I was quite keen to draw them. And then the stale blood, I kind of did want it to be stale, but I want it to be coming from somewhere. So, this is a bit of a mystery, this kind of hole in the wall where this blood could be coming from, and for what purpose. Maybe it's part of the Necromancer's ritual. Maybe this is what led the Necromancer there. This is what maybe led your players there, and they've stumbled upon this kind of room filled with a Necromancer and lots of zombies and this giant bat that's probably going to eat everybody, but we don't know. He might not. He might be able to be befriended by either players or, worse, the Necromancer. And yeah, it's just a case of filling all these zombies in, making them look kind of passive, like they're just ambling around. And yeah, just thinking about where the light source is, and making sure I hit the shadows. And that pool of blood had a plan for that, and I was very conscious not to forget about it. And then I start my ghoul champion, which I wanted to be like just a unit, like a solid unit of a character, and kind of having his head slightly turned like he's looking at us in some way. And yeah, not quite sure what he was in life. Maybe he was some kind of ogre or barbarian or something big and scary like that. So he was scary in life, and now he's even scarier in death. So yeah. And really making sure I get some quite bold shadows in on him. Like most of his lower half will be covered in shadows. And the odd skull here and there. And sort of just blocking in where I want shadows to go. It wasn't because I didn't want to do lots of brickwork. I just felt it would be quite a dynamic shadow, and given the light from the pyre, I felt like it made sense. I promise. And yeah, just filling in the rest of it. And then more zombies, lots of zombies, and having the odd one here and there with like a sword through him, and a few more coffins stacked up there, and having I think I put somebody kind of peeking out of one of the coffins, mostly because it just amused me, and that's my kind of go-to thing. If I find it funny, it ends up or amusing or cool or something. That tends to be the only criteria to put them in here, because I don't really plan these dungeons, though. I'm kind of making it up as I go along. I plan a rough kind of room when I do that isometric drawing or that shape, but I don't plan what's going to go in there and in what order, really. If I did, I would end up drawing the whole thing out in pencil and then inking it all separately, but I think that doesn't make for a very interesting video to watch. It's more interesting if you watch it kind of form as we go. And then the statue, which is the exit, and I kind of like the statue. It's just kind of hiding this exit, and this pool of blood is leading towards the exit, or whatever comes next. Maybe this is the first part of a larger kind of story or dungeon, and just kind of filling in where the shadows are going to go and putting the brickwork in. A random horned skull, I always think they're always quite fun. You're never quite sure what species they are or what they were before that. And getting our zombies all in there. You know, these ones look a bit more formidable. They've got horns on the helmets. You know, that's the universal symbol for things being a bit tougher, I think. Or it is in my world anyway. If you've got horns on your helmet, you know, people aren't going to mess with you. And making sure I get a lot of shadow on that kind of angel statue to kind of mirror the entrance. And yeah, I think detail-wise that's about it really, and just making sure I get the blood trickling down, get that brickwork in, and then it's just going to be a case of putting a few little details on the floor, little bits of detritus, little marks. And yeah, that's pretty much the dungeon done, really. And then obviously the great big fat smelly pen really earned its stripes today. A lot of people say, why do, because I'm going to take it into the computer, why don't I just colour the dark stuff in on the computer? And I think I'm a little bit of a completionist when it comes to this. I don't feel like it's finished until I've kind of put the final layer of kind of shadows in there. So really it's just for me, it's like a sense of achievement really. And I think when I scan it into the computer, it gives me a better idea of kind of how it's going to work and what I need to fix, more than anything else. If that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. But yeah. And yeah, you know, so this one went really smoothly. I think the drawing was maybe about an hour and 10 minutes or something, including several tea breaks in the middle. Yeah, and just leaving that little box for my signature, which I always forget about. And cool, there we go. When we do a big rubbing out, we scan it into the computer. This is what it looked like when I scanned it into the computer. So I knew I wanted to add more shadows was the main thing. So that's what I did. I darkened everything. I made sure all the whites were pure white, shadows were pure black. And the main thing was just adding more shadows to the zombies, so you can kind of see, making the Necromancer stand out. So you can kind of see, just making them kind of, you know, everything's kind of focused towards the pyre a little bit. So yeah, that's what I was working with on that. And then our 3 tones of grey, which brings everything to life. I can kind of see if it works properly then. So yeah, I was pretty pleased with the 3 tones of grey. I think it really did bring all these things to life. Not that the zombies are alive, but it gives it a sense of, I don't know, it just makes it feel a bit more animated, I suppose. And then my base colours. So my base colours changed quite a lot. So these were the initial colours I put down. I was originally thinking this would be quite a green kind of dungeon. And I couldn't make my mind up about what colour to do the flames. So they're kind of a greeny kind of colour at the moment. But when I put the effects on, you'll see that changes. And I want it to be a fairly muted, because it is underground, and I wanted the graveyard on top to be covered in moonlight. But when I put that pyre in, I really wanted to emphasise the warmth coming off it, so I kind of made the edges of the dungeon quite blue. And so yeah, it's kind of working quite nicely. I do genuinely quite like it. I think it worked quite well with the effects. And yeah, the very last thing to do is just add the title, which I changed it to the Necromancer's Tomb rather than Crypt, because we already had a crypt. And right, just a case of thanking my patrons, so thank you very much. Feel free to join the Patreon if you're able. And as always, folks, I will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye now.